you are listening to the Kinetic Man Podcast. I'm Stuart.
And I'm David, and we want to walk with you on the journey to living a life defined by uncommon action that is full of purpose, adventure, and meaningful relationships. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours, and together achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to leave the potential life behind and become kinetic men.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Stu. Hey, have you ever had an idea for the Kinetic Man Podcast? We want to hear from you. We're always dreaming up ways to make this podcast more valuable for our listeners. So we want to hear what you've loved and what you want to hear more of so we can make future episodes even better. Go to thekineticman.com/survey to help us make the podcast even better. And listen, if you do this before the end of October, you will automatically be entered to win a $100 gift card. Take the survey today at thekineticman.com/survey and be entered to win. Thank you for being an amazing listener. See you. Dennis Gable in the house. Excited about this conversation. Good to see you, man.
What's up? Good to see you guys too. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute.
Super
When
excited,
were you in
man.
Phoenix?
February.
February.
About a year ago, right?
Yeah.
That was
February
winter
22.
retreat?
Was that February
Something like
22?
Yeah,
Man.
man.
So,
Super excited to get after it with you again. You came in kind of impromptu. We know you through a really good buddy, actually future TKM coach as well, Russell Kimura, a dear friend of mine. He tolerates Stu like most of us. But he connected us, and then you were able to just kind of impromptu come talk to the dudes and some of the things we're going to talk about today. And it was awesome, man. Super impactful. You ran that first night of just kind of meetings and broke the ice, and it was super cool, man. Loved it. We're gonna probably talk a little bit about being dads. I think I remember what happened, dude. I think I broke my voice. Talk about dad failure. I think I broke my voice at our last football game Saturday because I was just like yelling at these kids.
Yelling at the kids.
I was like at a next level of yelling. And I remember during the game, I was like, "Ooh, I don't think I've hit that
Octave.
volume, that volume before." And I think I broke my voice, man. Ever since then, it's been broken.
Have you won a game yet?
No, they didn't win at all.
They did not win.
And I'll tell you, and we could talk about this. It was really interesting, and I'll be curious on your thoughts on this, Dennis, because I think it really plays into a lot of our influence as dads, as men. But the league, for some reason, made the call. These are fifth grade football, tackle football. The league made the call that every team makes the playoffs, and it put me in a really weird spot. I had a conversation with them, and I said, "Hey, boys, I want you to know. You guys tell me, did you earn it? Did you earn it?" And you actually, I think this is interesting because I think this goes to beyond fifth grade football. You were talking about it with entrepreneurs in your current journey. I said, "Did you earn it?" And one kid was like, "Yes." And the rest were like, "No." I'm like, "No, you didn't. Like, you guys didn't earn it. That was not a trick question. You guys have won 0 games.
You've won 0 games. You did not earn the playoffs.
You earned nothing. You earned nothing." And I said, "But sometimes life will give you a lucky opportunity that you did not earn. And you have to maximize." But then I followed that with, we're not going to the playoffs. I'm canceling that game anyways, because a bunch of kids, parents were like, "Yeah, we're going to, break or whatever." So anyways, but I'm excited about this because I think there's, in that anecdote, I think there's a lot of things that you can really talk to at a very personal level. And also as you move forward and are running men's groups and coaching and taking some of your experience and who you are as an entrepreneur and as a man, I think that's I think this idea of life and you talked about it when your buddy said, "Hey, maybe the universe wants you to do something else," right? But there's opportunities in that. There's different ways to approach that and resilience that is built through that. And so I want to turn it over to you, man. Tell us who Dennis Gable is and let's get after it.
Yeah, I'll speak to that story. I'm Dennis Gable. That's who I am. Man, I've lived such a long, weird, interesting life that it's hard to introduce myself. Like, I don't really know which things to say. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I'm a dad. I try to be a good friend, and I just care a lot about men's mental health. That's a pretty simple, fast introduction. Speaking to that story, my son actually recently fired me as his coach in basketball. And
That's awesome.
I've been his coach for a few years, and he excels at the game. He's incredible. And he's 10 years old, and he was like, I don't want you to coach me. I think you're too hard on me. And I was like, I don't really care about your opinion. And then his mom was like, just stop. Just let him have this moment. And I was like, okay. So then his new coach, I was like, hey, dude, you can coach him hard. And he goes, he's really good. Why would I do that? And I was like, that's why. Because he's good. Like, if he was the worst player on the team, maybe don't run him like he's the best player on the team. But because he's good, lay into him and make him earn it. You know what I mean? Like the same thing that you're talking about. Like, I think that there's this interesting thing that we do when men they have money, or they have status, or they have stuff, they have cars, they have something. The world sort of lays off of them. They kind of get this, like, everybody makes it to the playoff treatment because you did one thing really well. We'll say that one thing is earning money, right? And so I think the world as a whole, especially where we are right now, if you can show that you make a lot of money, true or not true, the world goes, they get a pass. They get to make the playoffs. And that is really an interesting thing, because I think those are the people that need to be pressed on the hardest. And success doesn't just come in money, right? Like, some guys don't make a lot of money, but they've been married for 35 years. And the world's like, man, you did good. You make the playoffs. And some dudes do neither of those things well, but they're the most present parent. Like, I'm thinking of one of my friends right now. Like, his saddest days are his days without his son. And when he says that, people are like, oh, you made the playoffs. And I think men who choose to excel at one of these variations of success, I think we need to press them a little harder. Like, you're good, get better. You know what I mean? And maybe I feel that way because I'm just mediocre at most things.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
No,
You've done some things, man.
it's not true. But for the fun, for the joke of the anecdote, like, I think, I've made money, but never a ton of it. Like, I've never been seen for the amount of money I make. I feel like I'm a good dad, but man, could I get better? Like, marriage I didn't do well at that for sure. You guys heard that story. And so, I think there are these spaces where we have to understand and identify which player we're dealing with when it comes to, to keep with the sports analogy. Like, there are probably some kids on that football team that really wanted to play one more game just so that they could play one more game, just so that they could have, like, one more tackle, maybe one more catch. Maybe the kid who didn't score a touchdown would have gotten to score a touchdown. Like, I think there's that person out there. And then there's the Kobe Bryant person, right? Like, the dude who's like, you guys do whatever you want. I'm gonna be in the gym at 3 a.m., 5 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 11 a.m. And then I'll take a nap, and then I'll do it all over again, right? And so I think one of the biggest things that we need to maybe consider as men is, like, which role do you play on the team? And that's come to me through self-knowing. Like, I've spent the last 6 years really heavily trying to figure out what I am. And then once you understand what you are, you have the opportunity to really engage with yourself and be present with yourself in that way, and show yourself some empathy. And self-empathy is something that men do not do well, because it's the opposite of shame. And then once we get to self-empathy, I think we get a chance to be self-intimate, and not in a sexual space, but like in a place of being close to and kind to and caring for this thing. This is very present on my mind because I was writing about it this morning. But this idea of self-intimacy, and I'd love for you guys to come in after I say this, but probably 8 months ago, I was in a really weird, kind of dark understanding of some childhood traumas and some things that I wasn't expecting to come to the surface. It was stuff that I thought I had dealt with, and then bang, there it was. And I was like, whoa, this is heavy. Like, I cried for days. I couldn't snap out of it. And so in that, there was a certain feeling of loneliness. And one morning I had woken up, gone to the bathroom, tried to go back to bed, and I just couldn't. I was like writhing in loneliness. And I literally just slid my left hand into my right and like held my own hand. And I got chills all over my body when I did it. And then I fell back asleep. Like it was I think self-intimacy is something that men are so afraid of because we immediately think intimacy has to do with sex. So like self-intimacy isn't necessarily running your bath and having candles and it's like it's just being close to yourself. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, experiences, and expand that conversation from like sports all the way to where we took it.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Goody. I know you got something to say.
well, I feel like did we give you access to the Kinetic Man Mastermind drive at some point and you're like digging in our
Yeah.
curriculum or something?
No, sir.
Well, it's so funny too. I was
That's
like in my head, like we just talked about empathy
yeah.
in our last mastermind retreat. We had you spoke at the
Mhm.
retreat in Phoenix. We had another gentleman come and speak at the one just recently that I was telling you about, and we talked about empathy and how that leads to success. It's pretty crazy. But David, go ahead.
Well, there's that, and then we're about to, this will come out after the fact, but in about an hour, we're about to address the Kinetic Man group and talk through masks and identity. And one of the things we talk about, one of the keys that we talk about as well in our program is intimacy, right? And it's funny because one of the things that I highlight by definition, intimacy, euphemistic it's a euphemism to talk about the sexual part of intimacy. The true definition doesn't even touch on that, right? It touched on closeness, all these things you talk about. And then one of the things you said that really resonated is this idea. So we have this kinetic life circle, and on it you grade yourself. And one of the things you said, and we say it all the time, is, man, if you grade yourself at a 10 on family or intimacy or finances or faith or financial, whatever it is, then you're settling. Like we never hit 10. We always want to be better, right? There should never be a 10. And if there is a 10, then you have a very good reason for it. But for me, I constantly want to be thriving to improve. And when you talk to us, we got to know you and just this this struggle that I say struggle in a very good way. This struggle that you maintain in constantly diving into yourself and getting to know yourself better and dealing with trauma, crying, and then getting deeper and deeper and deeper, because with that depth, you're more fully and more intimately knowing yourself. And the more intimately and fully that you know yourself, you specifically, Dennis, the more that you can fully and intimately serve specifically men, and that you can more better serve your kids, right? And the more that you can serve your community at large, and this huge amount of empathy that you have, as you dig deeper and give yourself grace and empathy, you exude that to others. Like I don't know if you, maybe you hide it well, but I don't know if in the last, since we've known you, if you are even a judgmental person at all, like because there's so much empathy. And I love it on your website. You say empathy drives those that thrive. Empathy drives those that thrive. And so I love that. And so I don't really have a question that I'm sure you have a comment, but it's just, I love the idea of not being afraid as a man, not only not being afraid, but intentionally seeking to dive into deep waters in order to fully realize your manhood, to then be able to serve your community, your men, your family better.
Yeah, Stu, do you got anything before I go on my own little diatribe?
Well, what came to mind for me also is just, I mean, dude, from the first moment we talked to you, and that was just a conversation that you and I had the phone from the connection from Russ, and then you came to our retreat, showed up on a Friday or a Monday night, not knowing any of the men that were there, and then you just went deep, like immediately, and just opened yourself up, right? And we talked about, this idea of being vulnerable as men, and that is hard. That's hard for us to do, but like you showed it immediately and opening it up. And in our retreat last week, I wrote down a comment. I'm looking at it right now, and I wrote, allowing vulnerability opens up doors for solutions.
Mm.
And I want to, and I know you have some comments to David's, but like this idea of being vulnerable, showing empathy, and your passion for mental health, like how does all of that open up in your journey towards emotional intelligence and figuring yourself out and going deep and being vulnerable? Like how does that all work to where you're at now?
I don't
I
know. Well, thank you both for the very kind things that you said, and Dave, you said something that was like, it's so real. I don't give myself much of a break. Like the analogy that I used about players, like athletes, is very similar to how I manage myself. When it comes to self-knowing and diving and diving and diving and diving, like I give myself zero grace. I'm at very little self-empathy for the fact that I could emotionally chicken out of something. And one of my best friends yesterday even was like, dude, just be nice to yourself today. And I'm like, dude, I'm fine. I'm being nice to myself. But that doesn't mean that I don't have more caverns to find. It doesn't mean that I don't have more to explore. And so you think about people who are constantly exploring, right? Like their hands are filthy, calloused, cut, bruised, whatever, and they're still going. Like that's really how I manage that. And you had said that I have no judgment. I'm sure that I do, but I don't have very much of it. Like I think when you think of the parts in the movie where the person has already sort of died esoterically and they have nothing left to live for other than to keep living. And there's no fear of death at that point. And I think emotionally, I've experienced that same thing. I have literally died emotionally, but I'm still alive as a human. I have nothing left to lose emotionally. And that doesn't mean I don't feel them. It doesn't mean I don't experience them. It doesn't mean that I'm not very in tune with them. It means that from, the childhood abuse, dealing with the abandonment issues, uh, like I got kicked out of the band I started when I was 22 years old, it's like because I couldn't sing good enough. And all of these failures and things, jobs, failed opportunities, failing the presupposition of what I was supposed to be as a man, my marriage failing, da 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 da. Like you go on and on and on. It's like I started to face them at an age where now I just keep facing them. Nothing can kill me emotionally. Like I think losing one of my children is the only thing that could destroy me. And this is going to sound harsh, maybe, but like it would only destroy me for a certain amount of time, a certain amount of grieving time. And then with each memory, there's a certain level of grief there, right? Like, so, um, I don't even know that that would allow me to cease to exist as I fully am. And, and that almost makes me cry thinking about it. Cause like, I feel like I'm hard-hearted by saying that. And I don't think I am. I think I'm more present with myself probably than ever. And Stu, to speak to that vulnerability piece, like that's part of it for me. I know that if I don't go first, most men won't go. And there are so many, like, I was thinking about this laying in bed. Like there are so many um what would I be if I wasn't being what I am? And I think about that from my truest nature kind of sense. Like the way I was raised is not who I'm supposed to be. The way that my dad treated me, the way I was told I was supposed to act, all of the people have said, just stick with it, just work harder, just get the job that's boring as heck. Like all of those people, uh, like I have no real relationship with either side of my family. Both my parents have passed away. You guys heard that in my story. Like I don't really, I don't have anything to align to other than myself. And and so you think about, there's a lot of like dude animal metaphors, like my I'm gonna give myself some self-control. there are a lot of animal metaphors about what it means to be a man. And the truth is like one of them is lions, not sheep. And I'm not picking on that guy. I don't know him personally, but like in that metaphor, even I would much rather be a ram, which is a sheep. I would much rather be a ram than a lion. Like to look good and present yourself as good and appear to be majestic while everybody around you does the work versus the ram who very literally, if you took his horns from, like if you shaved a lion's mane, his position doesn't change. But if you cut a ram's horns off and he goes to protect you, that's a dangerous scenario. You know what I mean? And so like just that interesting illustration, like I would much rather be a ram. They're protecting constantly. They're fighting always. Like they're literally ramming their head into other animals to protect the people around them, you know, like and I think about myself as a ram. What if I think my emotional intelligence is my horns? Like that's how I've learned to protect my people. I'm not a big dude. I'm not a fighter. Like I've been in one fight ever my whole life. But so, you know, and but my emotional intelligence is those are my horns. Like that's how I protect myself and the people around me. I hope that that makes sense. Like in my brain, the illustration made sense, but then I was like, how far away did I go?
No, man, that's good. Well, I'll tell you. I mean, you're a pretty intimidating dude. Just like looking at you, you know, you're. I wouldn't
That's
want to
why
pick a. I wouldn't want to pick
I
a fight
draw
with you.
these on every morning. It's don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Hey, so at the beginning when you're introducing yourself, you're talking about how you're passionate about men's health, men's
Mhm.
mental health, and with just kind of what you just described there, um, I guess one, why, and
Mm.
two, I want to talk about what you created that I use now every single morning to help with my own mental health. And it's been an amazing journey that I've kind of gone through. And you've challenged me on some things when we sat and talked when in Phoenix when we came. But
Yeah,
talk through that journey with us real fast.
sure. I think it started with the recognition that had my dad just faced his feelings, and he just looked at the fact that he was so angry that his dad beat him. He was so angry that his brother turned him into a young alcoholic. He was so angry that he was a drug addict. He was so angry that he ruined his marriage. He would like, if he would have just said, gosh, I'm angry and I'm hurt. Imagine how much softer he could have eventually been. And not soft like, I don't say soft as in accordance to less manly. I mean, he could have been kind to me. And I think that there's something innate about each of us as humans, very unique, right? So I don't know how much nature or nurture plays in, but I do think that there's some element that I was going to go down this road no matter what my childhood was like. And so therefore I'm really fortunate that my dad was a heroin addict and my mom left my dad for his best friend, and I just have been resiliently alone for a long time. And I never, you know, the abandonment issue piece of that journey is like I never thought I was being abandoned because I could always go find new people. And so to say that statement and lead into this next part of the conversation is I had to learn how to be by myself because I could just trade out one human energy for another human energy. I've done it since I was like 7 years old, you know? And um back in 2019, uh I started to put some ideas together for a deck of cards called 52 Card Pick Me Up that was in many ways dedicated to my dad because he would make me play 52 card pickup. And we would literally play a game of cards and then he would fling the cards all over the living room and be like, pick them up. I'm like, or he would say, do you want to play? And so, um, there was a moment for me where I needed a chance to further heal that relationship and provide a tool that would be helpful. And so I created 52 card pick me up. And there's a coinciding journal that goes along with it. And really, man, the whole key was that I needed a way to get to know things about myself that I wasn't thinking about. And so each word on here has the ability to prompt me to think deeper about something that maybe I wasn't paying attention to. And, the deeper I personally go through this journey is, it's like lifting weights in a lot of ways. When you're first getting at it, you've got to really put in the work. To bench 225, you've got to like work.
You're losing Stu on this analogy. I just wanted
Hey man, I'm back in the gym now, dude.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
back in
kidding,
the
man. I'm
gym.
just kidding. No, go.
I lost me on the analogy, but I know that it works. But like to bench 225, you got to work really hard. And then once you bench 250, you don't have to work as hard to bench 225. And so emotional intelligence is very similar, I think, is like I don't have to try so hard to identify what I need to work on anymore. It's very much like that lifting weights sort of thing. I've moved that muscle so many times, stretched it, pulled it, ripped it, let it heal. Stretched it, pulled it, ripped it, let it heal. And now it's like I get to do that at a very interesting level, which is weird because it's an interesting thing to say. I feel so emotionally intelligent that I don't have to try. That feels weird because I do have to try and I have to put a lot of work in. And that's why I'm constantly, David, to your point, I'm constantly diving in deeper to what the heck is wrong with me, even if nothing's wrong. But they say the proof is in the pudding. And like 6 years ago, it's 2018. So however many years ago 2018 was, my son shot me in the eyeball with a Nerf bullet, point blank range, after me telling him, please don't shoot anybody in the face. Fellas, I lost my mind. Screaming, cussing, yelling, get away from me. Like, I made him cry. Like, yesterday, him and I are playing around, and he has this, like, rubber basketball. And we're playing around and, like, throwing it back and forth to each other. And I had kind of looked down and looked back up, and he's now 10, mind you. He whooped that thing so hard into my face that I had stipple marks from the basketball. And all I did is look at him, and I was like, I love you so much. Let me know when you're ready to apologize. And he walks away going, I'm sorry. I said, no, that's not how we apologize. Come back and look at me in the face. And he came back and goes, I'm sorry, Dad. And I was like, it's okay. But the difference in response and reaction, like from 2018 till now, is so wild. And that's really why I care so much about this journey of men's mental health. To speak to the initial question, we are reactionary. We're wildly intuitional. We have a deep intuition, men do. We are rational when emotional chaos happens. When there's a fire, we can go, okay, hold on. You go there. You get that. You come with me. You know what I mean? Like, we have those capabilities and capacities that I'm not going to go deep onto this, but in a mental health world where it's a lot of women talking about how men should behave and act from their point of view and their study and their perspective and their doctorate degree, and all of that is fair and fine. But if you're not one, it's really hard to understand these things that are non-physical, like our intuition, which most women think men are just like big dumb monkeys. But the reason we have an intuition is because we've been worried about lions hunting us forever. And we have to hear that faint thing so far away, right? We're like always on and always ready. And so when men can use that truth and bring and grow that muscle of emotional intelligence, like, now you have really strong, really capable, really intelligent, really smart men who also can use their heart brain. Bro, that's a dangerous dude.
Dude, I love that. You know, what I love about that is, one, that we can achieve that, but two, like, it's funny when you draw that dichotomy, because I feel, and Stu and I were 20 years in the military, and I feel like the most dangerous situations that I've ever been in, very calm, right? Real, just like, okay, Like, what do we have to do about this? Or any kind of crisis. I'm thinking back more immediately to sailors in perilous positions, or in talk about mental health. They're either contemplating or have committed suicide, and you have to work through you have to remain calm and work through it and go, do what it is you have to do. But at the same moment, my son can push a button and I freaking lose it in like
100%.
a heartbeat, right? In a heartbeat. And so there's that. I love the idea, and it's very comforting to know that those things can merge in my life, and it'll be a benefit to my family. It'll be a benefit to my kids. They'll be able to see. And it's funny when you said, I love you. Like, I do that. That is like second nature now to my boys. I'm like, especially my boys, but my daughter as well, but they push more. I'm like, I love you, buddy. Now let's talk about this. But you have to say, I love you. It's a very good tactic to be like, I love you, because in the moment I'm like, I do not like you at all, but I do love you. I love you very much.
Right.
If you don't mind, real quick, with this next few minutes, can you actually maybe just even bust out a card? I don't have my cards. My cards are in my desk at my house, but if you could just kind of very quickly walk through it. And I also want to highlight one thing. Stu and I are men of faith. We love Jesus. Jesus is the Lamb of God. I'm just saying, lambs are those are pretty powerful imagery, pretty powerful animals. So anyways, go ahead, Dennis.
So the 52 card pick me up deck was designed to be super simple. There's 4 suits, as I call them. Need is one of them. So like, what do you need in your brain? That's why that has a brain. What do you feel in your heart is the next one. What can you do with your hands, or like your body, your energy is act. And then affirm, there's an eyeball because it's more of a mirror. Like, how do we see ourselves, And so just using these 4 that I pulled out of here as the example of the cards, feel desperate. That's not a fun thing to feel. Stu, we talked about this when we were in Phoenix, like that there were certain cards that you would want to not
put them back in the deck. I'm like, nah,
didn't want to deal with it.
I'm not angry today.
And I think that's the rational brain of men, right? Like, oh, this isn't life or death. Nobody's dying over this. I'll just pick another one, right? And really, these things that we feel, if they're unaddressed, they're like wounds that become infected. You know what I mean? So being willing and able to look at some of the harder things. Feel has anxious, it has desperate, it has some hard words. It also says, I feel grateful is one of the feel words, right? Like, so it's not just downer stuff, but I think that's part of the process. This card says change. I need change. Man, don't we all in some spaces, right? Like, but the question is, where could I change that maybe has the most impact? The act says apologize. Man, these are wild. The act says apologize, which I'm not great at. Like, I've gotten much better. Even with, my son yesterday, he was trying to pour one root beer into another. We were out watching the Diamondbacks game, and he poured root beer all over the French fries. And I was like, my immediate response, like, bro, what are you doing? And that's not a very kind thing to say. Like, he's not broken. He just was trying to pour root beer from one cup to another. And so I leaned over in his ear and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. You're not in trouble. I wasn't asking because I think you're dumb. I didn't understand why one cup had to go. Just drink it out of the one cup.
Anyway. But I mean, it wasn't that smart either, buddy. I just want to make sure you know
right. You're dumb. I love you, but you're dumb. And then this affirm card says, I am capable. And I actually have this hanging in my kitchen where my coffee mugs are. Because dang, if I don't need to believe that every day about myself, so like, there's 52 cards, 52 words, and 13 of each suit. And there's such a wide variety. And the truth is, you could pick probably any card any day and it has some relevance. But the power, the tool is, what is the closest distance between me and this word? What is the thing that's closest to that feeling, need, behavior, whatever?
Yeah, dude, it's been powerful for me, man. Like, I really do now kind of look forward to it every single morning as a part of my morning routine, because, sometimes it's very challenging, and I'll take that word and to your challenge to me at our retreat was like, no, don't put it back in the deck of cards because that it doesn't feel right. Like, stick with that card
Mm.
and go there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
think about it and journal on it. And on your website, you says uncover unknown paths, explore them,
Mm-hmm.
and then keep record of them. And so
Mm.
I've started to do that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I've taken a card like grief and like, man, what am I grieving? And like write it out and then think about it and go there and go deep and journal on it. And it's empowering, man. It's healing, and
Mm.
it really is. It's hard, but that's where we want to be, right? To make ourselves better.
Sure.
Uh,
I,
and
I agree.
yeah, I love it, man. And I think more people need this because I think a lot of men specifically don't go there. To your point. And speaking of men, I know you're wanting to help more men
Yeah.
um, in this journey. And so how are you doing that?
Yeah. I'll tell this story quickly.
Yeah.
um, I've I've really cared about men's mental health since I started to care about my own. And the story I told about my dad and some of those things. And so I felt like my business was failing last December. And so I shut it down. Took a job in January, got some stability, just been in a dreamer mentality, which is good for me. I'm a creator. I love to build things. And yesterday actually was, well, not yesterday when people hear this, but yesterday for you and I was the launch of Inlier, which is a 6-week men's coaching program that uses every guy that joins will get a deck of card and journal because that's part of the practice. But essentially, we use 4 different personality typing systems that they're 4 social sciences that have no bearing on one another. They're very independent companies, mechanisms, research structures, etc. But what I do is I'll take that data and I bring together the core of what all aligns to create the inlier data, right? So there will be outliers between some of these tests, but the inlier data will line up amongst all of these other social sciences. And I can point to a man and say, over 6 weeks, which is a very short amount of time, here is the core of what you are as a man. And we're pulling from 4 different systems to show this very core. And then your job now is to learn and go from the inside out, right? And turn more of those outliers maybe into inliers, or discard the things that people have said to you. Like the amount of times that people have told me, just stick with the job. I wasn't built to do that. I'm literally built to be a dreamer, a wanderer. Like my top strengths in every personality test I've ever done are wonder and creativity. Like I live with my head in the clouds. It's not my fault. um, but if I wouldn't have taken these last 6 years to get to learn that, then I would still let people beat me over the head with these words that like make me feel stupid or weak or dumb or small or whatever, right? And so that's where the idea is. That's where it came from. I have 2 follow-up versions of that. So version 1 is self-knowing, version 2 is self-empathy, and version 3 is self-intimacy. So and those are 3 different 6-week tracks, and you don't have to do all of them. You could, I want this to be exactly what men need it to be, but the focus is to start on self-knowing.
I love that, man. That's awesome. The inliers. Well, we'll if you have links and all the information to
Yeah.
sign up, and we'll put that in the notes. So I love it, dude. I think it's extremely powerful. One thing that popped in my mind as you're talking is this quote that has just been resonating for me, and I don't know the exact rabbi's name, but a rabbi said, when I get to heaven, God's not going to ask me, why were you not Moses? He's going to ask me, why was I not Dennis? Why was I
Right.
not Stu? Why was I not Goody? Right? Like
Yep.
it's powerful because when you realize that and you live in that strength and that self-awareness and that knowledge, I mean, the sky's the limit, right? The sky's the limit. And you actually experience true joy, and you can experience a depth to life that is just vastly more. And I think, one thing, this came to my head as you're talking about your kids, and we'll close on this. But one of the things I've been doing a lot more recently, is watching my kids. And I was listening to a podcast earlier, and to your point of kind of that self-awareness. Well, kids are very self-aware. A lot of them are very, and I look at my boys in particular, and they're very much before they enter manhood, they know they vocalize their dreams. They a lot of them will understand some of the purpose, that their passion, the things that they enjoy, that they're naturally inclined to, that if you just listen and you ask. And then as a dad, I feel like it's my job to speak into that, to continue to not influence it from a perspective of, hey, well, stick with the job, maybe you should look at this, but influence it from the perspective of empower and validate my children in their dreams. So before I left the house, my daughter was still home, and I'm like, honey, I just love what a hard worker you are and what a diligent student you are, because she is. Right. And I'm not saying she should be or shouldn't be. I'm just saying, hey, I love that you do that. I love that that's who you are. And when I'm looking at my boys, there's a couple things that really resonate, that how much they touch each other and how comfortable they are with each other boys, and just the natural, it's like little magnets, dude. I just noticed this yesterday again. I would just watch my little guy's hands, and they all just actually, I was at their playground, and they all were like, we're all playing. But I started watching the boys in particular, and they're really, even more so than the girls to a large extent, they gravitate towards touching and touching each other and like holding hands almost. And it's awesome. But it really hit me. I'm like, man, how far have I come, and how far are most men from that? And which is more natural? These lies I'm being told to what the man I should be, or watching these boys be the boys that they are, that they were created to be. And so it's just an interesting thing. As dads, I would just say, dads, like, watch if you're lucky enough to have little guys still in the house, watch them. Just pay attention to the little nuance of their touches and their dreams, right? And then project that to yourself. Be like, what are my dreams? What would happen if the dream that I'm currently saying and the goal that I'm currently putting out there, what if it came true? What would happen? Would I be happy? And I think a lot of us would be like, no, I just want another goal. And so I think it's just powerful. And I love how you inspire that. You challenge that level of depth. You push us. And I'm thinking back to February, to last, 2 Februarys ago, whenever it was. I'm just like, man, that was really good. That was really good. And I love how you challenged Stu. I remember that. Stu's like putting cards away. I'm like, Stu, what are you doing, dude? He's putting them away. And you're like, don't do that. Don't do
Stu,
that.
I may or may not tell the story about you doing that. I don't reference you by name, but I say don't do the Stu,
I love it, dude.
I don't reference you by name, but don't stew it. Don't stew it.
I love it, dude.
I don't mention you by name, though.
It had an impact on me, man. And use my name. I'm happy. I'm happy to own that. It's good, man. Yeah. Life changing.
Thank you. It's something.
Dennis, where do we send people? Where do we send people to look into your coaching program and 52 car pick me up, and how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, everything you can find at dennisgable.com. Even in my navigation bar, it links to everything. All of them have their separate URLs, but that gets a bit confusing. So, and on Instagram at Dennis Gable. If you know how to spell my name, there's not very many places you can't find me.
Perfect, man. Well, dude,
thank you guys so much.
Yeah, man, this was, I knew it would be an awesome conversation. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for doing what you do. You're inspiring men to focus on that really important stuff that's hard to do. So you've helped me. I know you've helped other men in our tribe. So yeah, man, guys and gals, reach out to Dennis. We'll put his link in the show notes. And hey, let's work on this stuff. It's hard, but it's important. Let's all go take uncommon action.
Yeah, man. Be different, be better. Maya, Jacob, Noah, I love you.
Collins and
Thank
Wells,
you guys.
I love you.
See you.
Hey, before we let you go and tackle the day, we wanted to tell you about a new product coming out called the Manifesto. It's a newsletter. It's free. It comes out twice a month. And we give actionable steps, insights, and inspiration to help you on your journey to becoming a better man. We aim to be the highest value per minute email in your inbox every time. So go check it out. You can go to thekineticman.com/newsletter. Again, that's thekineticman.com/newsletter, and sign up for the manifesto. It is going to be awesome. See you.
Thank you for listening to the Kinetic Man podcast. If you are growth-minded, community-focused, and willing to take uncommon action to redefine success and live an abundant life, visit our website at www.thekineticman.com to see all the ways we could connect.
And on our website, you can find more information on everything we're doing, like joining our Meetup page to get the details on our webinars and our local Thursday gatherings here in Colorado. From our site, you can also find more information on and sign up for the next Kinetic Man retreat and the next house of our mastermind group. Finally, we always appreciate your love and support. Please share this episode and go rate us on your favorite podcast player of choice.
Thank you again. Now go take uncommon action.